pervy man in or out of sight. Everyone thinks he's just a fright. Day or night he's putting up a show. Calls himself Juno, when really he's James. And India's Jonathan. Susie, that's just Eddie. And Gigi's definitely George. Jane is John. Monroe's Ian, carrying on. Rixie, Rachel, or Paris, we'll just call them Dave. But they're all parasites, devouring women's rights, claiming them for their own. Oh, the parasitic man.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm having a bad hair day. How about you? Right, I just want to jump straight into this was Nottingham 2025. So Nottingham's got a very special place in the history of Let Women Speak. So I decided a long time ago that some women couldn't make it down to London. And so what I would do with Let Women Speak, or as it was then, Speaker's Corner, is we would go to the women. So we started going to the women by going to Nottingham. And the reason we chose Nottingham is because it's got a Speaker's Corner, and it's the first Speaker's Corner outside of London. So it's a really special place. And now Nottingham perfectly encapsulates exactly what is wrong with the United Kingdom with regard to women. And I specifically want to look today at the police and women's organisations. So we're going to start with, I think we first went to Nottingham maybe 2023. Could have even been 2022. But anyway, it was the first time we really got attacked by trans activists, and they stood around, and the women, the incredible women of Nottingham, started shouting, let women speak. And then I decided that that was a perfect name for exactly what we did here at Let Women Speak, which was we create space in order to let women speak. And over the years, I've had women start their own things and like change it to some other near Let Women Speak name. Or people have said, oh, why do you call it Let Women Speak? And shouldn't it, I don't need permission. We're not asking for permission. We're creating space so we let women speak. All right. So it's a bit like when you say to your kids, let him play. You're not really saying, oh, would you mind? You're telling somebody what to do. So this is our first so anyway, so we go to Nottingham the first time, and then we decide to go back again. Can't remember whether we've been there 3 times. But it's around International Women's Day, and this is what happened on the occasion last year. This is how brilliant the police were in 2025 when a few women, mostly middle-aged, came to try and speak.
Let me show you some of the old guys. Let me just show you their fucking faces. Show people their faces. Look at these. Look at that.
I think we may have been struggling with tech, which would be very unusual for us, but I think that's what this is. That's one of the amazing Nottingham Let Women Speak. In fact, Karina is now our coordinator. Look how close they are. Right, okay. So, you can imagine some of the women were alarmed and distressed while they were allowed to come up to us. We'd asked the police to come and look after us. The police absolutely declined. In fact, when they first surged upon us, there were 2 police sort of standing very far away. Oh, look, look at that police officer. So we had loads of people coming right up to us. In fact, a couple of people end up getting assaulted. And what the police did, with the alarm and distress, fuck all. That's what the police did. So then they surrounded us. So they're behind us and in front of us. So then what we decided to do is we walked to the police station. So we weren't allowed to speak. So that is what they did. Now I'm going to show you this instead. So this is how Nottingham police responded. Actually, before I show you this, I'm going to show you one of the sort of conversations that I had, and you can decide for yourself if these people were alarmed and distressed. So let me just tell you, this conversation now is probably the longest conversation I had with anyone. It's very, very typical of the sort of conversation I had. Very typical. This is probably as abrasive as it gets, apart from the woman who said you can't put that film anywhere. But let me just also say, with every single conversation, I asked permission. I had a microphone in my hand. It was quite clear, because one of the things these women started saying once we left is that I hadn't asked permission to film them. So there was someone standing next to me with a little camera, and I had a microphone. And I asked people if I could speak to them. So I think it's perfectly obvious exactly what my intention was with a big fat microphone. Okay? Perfectly obvious. So.
Already done an interview earlier in the day.
Well, wonderful. Hello. So you're the CEO of Nottingham Women's Centre?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and what does Nottingham Women's Centre do for the women of Nottingham?
So Nottingham Women's Centre is an absolutely fabulous place, and it offers a...
I just want to say, she's very pleased with herself. I'm asking her what she does. Clearly, she doesn't know that I know at this point that women who founded it, in fact, one of the women who founded the organisation, Nottingham Women's Centre, came to, I can't remember whether she came to Nottingham or she came to one of our early speakers' corners to tell me, and the word she used for this woman was a see you next Tuesday, but she was so angry that what the Nottingham Women's Centre did with all that blood, sweat and tears of the women that founded the centre was then hand it over to men.
Great deal both to the staff that it employs and to the women of Nottingham. We have an open door policy for any woman that wants to kind of join us and use the facilities at the centre. We have drop-ins, we have coffee and chat, we have dedicated services, casework, counselling, do you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Look, no alarm and distress, would you agree? No alarm and distress. She doesn't look alarmed or distressed. She looks perfectly happy to tell me the amazing work that the Nottingham Women's Centre does. And yeah, you'll see for yourself.
To support those very specific needs, but also it's a much wider community in terms of well-being activities, arts activities, education courses, or to build a community for women to share space with other women and build connection, build relationships. Most of those things are free of charge, and we'd love to see more women join us.
And how long you've been going? Because I'm pretty sure I've met one of the women that was one of the founders who sort of built it bottom up. So how long have you been going?
So the Women's Centre is over 50 years old. And we had a bit of a celebration a couple of years ago for our 50th birthday. My job as the CEO...
Look, it's not very often I like to sing my own praises, but this is particularly good.
Is to hopefully build the building blocks so that we can last for another 50 years. The need is there, women's need for community and connection remains. We've been in the building on Chaucer Street for, I think, since about 1986. So again, it's an anchor for us, and we're hoping to see some developments in our home there in the coming months.
Excellent. And what's your most popular service? So just bringing her in, letting her talk, tell everyone, letting her talk.
I've got to say the arts services, crafty club, quilting, painting, anything like that. Women are able to come, learn a new skill, use their imagination, their creative side, and find communities of women to talk and share experience whilst they're creating beautiful things.
Wow. So the lady that I spoke to, she was really rather angry that now what you include in Nottingham Women's Centre are men who identify as women, and she was very upset that what she worked for, which was to create an environment that was safe for women, is now no longer so. So loads of women don't women's centre. They feel it's not for them. Let me just share something with you here. Now, there are many ways that I could have tackled this, and upon reflection, I'm thinking, well, maybe I should have said it's not just about women's safety. But what I wanted to do with this conversation is there was a place that I wanted to get. I wanted as long a conversation as possible without, my intention by having these conversations is to highlight what's happening. It wasn't the right environment. Like she was blindsided, if you like, but it wasn't the right environment to badger her, because obviously what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to get thrown out of this particular event. I wanted to hold as many women to account who get handsomely paid by the voluntary sector and by us. I wanted to have as many conversations as possible. And so she now goes on to talk about women's safety, which I don't know about you, but if I'm running a women's centre, I don't think the difference between inviting men in or not is whether or not they're going to be violent against women. That's not a safe space in this sort of usage. Is not literally about whether women are going to get beaten up or sexually assaulted. A safe space is also about an environment that's a single sex space for women, so that women have and I believe in the single sex spaces for men also, but it creates a particular sort of environment that cannot be achieved once you have men in there. But though that is not what we discussed. She started talking about the safety of women, like quite literally.
It's really sad that these divisions are increasingly being created in our society. The experience that we've had at the Women's Centre is being
I think what she's implying there is that there's divisions because women don't want to be in spaces with men. So she calls that a division.
Inclusive, in real terms, has not increased risk. I appreciate there may be a perception of increased risk.
No, it's not perception either, but anyway, carry on.
And we want to work and do all that we can do to reduce that perception. All women are welcome to join us, and we include trans women in that as a group that we believe need to be supported. If there is any issue about women feeling that reduces the safety as compared to the risk that is seen in the figures being out of the centre, do you know what I mean, in society, the vast amount of abuse and risk and violence comes from men. It doesn't come from trans women. So we want to kind of build those bridges and
what I want to know is how it is that you run a women's centre, and I mean any kind of cursory glance at statistics, like actual statistics, would tell her that she's wrong. So to be this certain and wrong is quite scary, but I would imagine that is prevalent right across the women's sector.
Increasingly build an inclusive centre.
Can I just challenge you on that? Because actually there is no differentiation between the risk of a man or a man who identifies as a woman with regards to criminality, sexual violence. How do you square that particular fact?
You need to provide me with the evidence of that and the stats that you've got, because the evidence that we have is actually that 90% of violence against women is caused by men, identifying men, and that there is a small percentage of violence between women, of course, but actually if there are figures that suggest...
I mean, even her language, between women, when she says between women, she obviously, I mean, I must have missed that, but she obviously means men who call themselves women and women.
Suggests that trans men are perpetuating...
Ah, how transphobic of her. She got that wrong, didn't she? She called men trans men then.
The violence that comes from men, then I would like to see that information.
Okay. One more thing before I'm going to let you go. With regards to the Supreme Court, and we've, from my point of view, it's always been the case that if you say that you're a women's centre, you should be single sex. How are you going to manage continuing when it's likely that you're unlawful in including men in your space?
So we're taking legal advice. We will follow the law. We will make sure we are compliant, and we will make sure we're inclusive, and we have a...
Compliant and inclusive. So you're going to comply with the law and you're still going to include men? That seems impossible, Louise.
Legal team making sure we are in that space.
So you might just go mixed sex?
We will take legal advice about what we need to do, and we will follow that with our values and our inclusive approach about being a women's centre.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, personally, I think it's a real shame that you totally bottled it for the safety of women. It's a real shame that you've stopped providing a women-only space and you still have the audacity to call it a women-only space.
You're entitled to your opinion, of course you have. I think the other thing to recognise is that we've always been a trans-inclusive space, so there's been no change in policy.
I think your finders would disagree, but thank you so much. Can I just say, she probably really didn't like that, really didn't like it, and I think she's revolting for including men in a women-only space and being part of the women's sector and apparently not really understanding what that might mean for women. So all of those things. However, she had a respectful dialogue, and whether she wanted to smile at me at the end or not, she did. We had a conversation. There was a start to the conversation. There was a middle, and there was an end. And she defended her position. I don't think it's defensible, but she defended her position. I don't think she was alarmed and distressed, but she was definitely part of the group of women that were determined to get me ejected from. So I say to this woman, Louise, who's from the Nottingham Women's Centre, I would really like to have a respectful, long conversation with you where we really examine how you've got to a place where you are accepting men in that women's centre. But I think that you would be more than capable of offering a defence, even if I think your position is untenable, but offering a defence. And so I would welcome further dialogue on this, because that was probably the most difficult conversation I had. Let's find another one. She was, I must say, she was a little bit shaken when she was giving her her next speech. So this is
violence, for example.
So this group here, so there were many of these leaflets all about myths about Islam. Like there is something going on, right? There's something weird going on, whereby, in fact, I might do that for this so you can see the whole of. There is something weird going on. So in this entire event, there was loads about Muslims as victims, right? And I think that there were no special leaflets about anti-Semitism. There was another stand about HIV and PrEP, which is mad, totally mad. And sexual health, and this woman sort of saying that she helped. She used to be an outreach worker for prostitutes, and basically that they never judged and they never tried to help women exit. Like, oh my God. But this thing about Muslims is really, really interesting because there is a real push in society at the moment, well-funded, real push in society to see Muslims as victims, not perpetrators. And I would argue, on balance, looking at gang rape, looking at some of the violence in the streets, looking at some of the dominant behaviors of like praying in the streets, of what's been happening with football matches and so on, I would actually say that the instigators of hate are Muslims over the victims. That's my view. But this was a favorite little thing. So this woman here, her colleague tries to give me a hate leaflet, and this is after we've had a little bit of a conversation about why they're doing this sort of myth about Islam. It wasn't a very well prepared conversation of mine. There were lots of things I could have done, like what about the rise in the niqab? What about World Hijab Day? Do you think it's right for whatever? But I've got to try and have conversations where I go in and out, make my point, and leave.
Violence, for example.
Oh, I don't need that. I've been reported far too many times for saying that women don't have penises. Look at her face. Watch. So she then looks at the camera, the one in the green. Look at the woman in the sort of top. I think it's a dress.
You've been what, sorry?
Reported to the police for saying women don't have penises.
Should we wrap up?
Yes, I think we need to wrap up.
That was a...
But I think you can't just necessarily share anything about what I'm saying. without my
I
permission?
no, I can. It's the law. I can.
No, I can. It's the law. I can.
Okay, so that was probably the most confrontational conversation that I had. Now she was absolutely fuming. What she then did is she came over to the table and she started snatching leaflets, and she was really, really, really cross. Um, and there was another sexual health woman who also, like, clearly there was some sort of conversation somewhere. And they were talking about me and trying to get me and the Let Women Speak Midlands team thrown out. Now the Let Women Speak Midlands team, they were just on a table with information, having conversations. Okay, so that's all they were doing. So let me just. So then the police comes over. He was special. We knew he was coming. Let me just make sure that we've got. There we go. Actually, we'll do that.
I mean, I can ask you to leave.
That's why.
Going to have to ask you to leave. You're welcome in the venue. It's not down to myself.
We haven't returned money. It is what's down. And here's Nottingham Police. Where were you at this? A year ago, we gave a talk outside, and you allowed us to be surrounded. Your police force allowed us to be surrounded by violent trans activists.
You refusing to leave the premises when obviously at first you was granted access, or we've been made aware that you've been asking questions.
See, there's a woman in black behind, and she's the one that says, "I'm going to ask you. Can I ask you to leave?" And I say, "No." So this is how it went. We went there. We set up. I asked some women who did recognise biological sex. I talked to them. I talked to a sexual health person from the NHS, and they had Pride Progress flags and PrEP and HIV stuff. And then I spoke to another. I think they were called Juno. That was a domestic violence charity or something. I spoke to them. I spoke to some police officers who admitted that there isn't a single sex service that they know of that they point women to. They just kind of hope it's women. And then that woman behind, she's the one who basically asked me to leave. I said no. Then the guy who said he was the owner of the building, although I understand it's owned by the council, he came over, tried to ask me to leave. I think that little woman over there, she probably asked me to leave twice. And I had said no. And then what they did is they announced that lunch would be early. So they brought lunch forward. Oh, I'd also been to John Lewis because they had a couple of women to tell them that women felt really badly served by John Lewis. And I think that's about it. Oh, and I had that conversation with that women's centre woman. Oh, and also I had a conversation with the YMCA woman who jabbed me in the arm. And then we were asked to leave. So this is the and the deputy PCC refused to talk to me at all. She ran away. I might show you that as well. So then this police officer comes and says this should not be right. I've got somebody offering me free legal advice, so I'm making a complaint. I'm also going to make a complaint to the venue because there is no evidence whatsoever that anyone was alarmed or distressed. Alarmed or distressed isn't just like someone said something I don't like. The legal definition for alarmed and distressed has to be sort of like he can't make me leave unless he thinks there's a threat of violence. Otherwise, we would not have squatters. Otherwise, we would not have spoilt bastards able to go and sit in places. They'd be asked to leave, right? So when you have these people protesting in certain places, then people can ask them to leave, and then the police have to remove them. Well, we know that doesn't happen.
People from alarm and distress.
Do you know what those questions are? What if I asked them if they were racist? Would you be kicking me out?
Okay. I must remind you that if you not comply with that, you'll be treated as a trespasser on this premise.
And is that illegal?
I think it's illegal.
Under what?
That woman there, that woman who's looking now with the black hair, she's the sexual health person. I'll put her video up later. I'm going to put the whole. So there's like there's 2.5 hours, 3 hours of footage, and I will put every single conversation I had, aside from like with women, private conversations with women, but I have evidence of every single thing that I did for the whole time I was at that place.
You've been refused.
Okay, what? And trespassing is under what act?
And you're not allowed to remain in the building. You've been treated.
Okay, all right. And trespass is definitely a criminal act.
I'm asking you nicely.
And trespassing is criminal, is
I'm asking
it?
you nicely.
Yeah, and I'm asking you nicely. Is trespassing illegal?
The building immediately, please.
Can you identify the law about trespass, please? Is it a civil or is it a criminal
So
offence?
it's civil, but we can be there to one, that the breach of the peace, okay, and we can assist.
Breach of the peace also has to be like threatening or abusive. You can't just say breach of the peace for standing in a room asking questions for people that are employed in the women's sector.
With rejected people off the premises, okay, and if that doesn't comply, and also with the comments and questions you've been asking,
Which are?
I can't disclose them questions, but I've been made aware of them questions. Okay?
No, you need to disclose because you've just talked about it.
So he's not going to disclose the questions that I asked to me. He's not going to tell me what the questions that I asked was.
So the questions are, do you offer single-sex spaces?
So, obviously, it's caused some alarm and harassment and distress to some people for the questions you're asking, okay? And to prevent the breach of the peace.
Mate, honestly, are you being serious?
Nicely, with your.
I've asked if they provide single-sex spaces.
If you wouldn't mind, please leave the building.
You're telling me that you have a right to remove me from somewhere for asking women who organise women's spaces whether or not they are just for women. Is that right?
I've been made aware from
Yeah.
the questions you've asked has caused some distress and some alarm to members.
I mean, it's such bullshit, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm acting in the interest of the building and the venue holders.
Is that who you act for, buildings?
So when someone's refusing to leave the premises,
Yeah.
police can come to assist with trying to get people to peacefully and lawfully leave the property. Okay.
And are you happy that you're being used right now as an enforcer because I asked some women whether they provide single-sex spaces?
I can't confirm or deny that, but I've been asked. Okay.
It's been made aware of questions, but it knows about the questions. It's been made aware of the questions, but it can't disclose the questions, but it can't confirm or deny.
Okay, well, I've been told that you've committed some criminal act.
Okay.
And you've upset someone.
My request, I might have to,
including violence,
I might have to go through the 5-step appeal, which basically means I'll ask you numerous questions to try and ask you to leave the venue peacefully and lawfully, okay?
Yeah.
If you don't comply with that request, I may have to use reasonable force to eject you and your group off the property, okay?
So basically, he's saying there that he will use reasonable force to force me out.
Which I don't want to.
Carry on.
Okay, because I'm coming across as polite and respectful, okay? I've introduced myself to the police.
It's so weird for people to tell you how they're behaving when they're standing. I'm being polite and respectful, and I'm being nice. And like the woman said to me earlier, in that day, I'm asking you politely. Well, it's not fucking polite to ask someone to leave an event, is it?
Police officer.
I've just had polite conversations with women that they don't like being asked whether or not they provide services just for women.
I understand, but what you're asking, they don't feel it's right. Okay, so I'll ask you one more time, and I'll go through this 5-step appeal. Are you willing to leave the venue immediately?
What harm are we?
Yeah, what harm?
Are we doing to people across the
So people have spoken to who are running the event,
Yeah.
and questioned and got concerns.
Yeah.
Questions you're asking, which is obviously upset some members of the public.
This is the police force that allowed us to be kettled.
Where's the harm
So
in that question?
okay, so I'm going to go through the 5-step appeal now. Okay, so I've asked you to law.
What's your number?
PC 4669 Beardsmore, based at Central Police Station, Nottingham.
Why didn't you arrest men when they kettled us?
So, are you willing to leave the venue peacefully and lawfully at your own will?
Because I asked some women about single-sex spaces.
So I've already asked you. Okay.
Because I just want you to clarify. I just want you to know when you do this, I want you to know it's because I asked single-sex spaces. That's it. I was asking about single-sex spaces.
Is there anything I can really say or do to get you to leave the venue peacefully and lawfully?
You can tell us what harm would you?
I must remind
What harm?
you. Okay.
What harm?
Bearing in mind, I think we all know, A, if I'd gone up to people and said, "Are you trans inclusive?" it would have been fine. And B, if I had a cock, it would be also fine. Probably if I had a hijab and brown skin, I think it also would have been fine.
If you don't comply
What
with this,
harm?
you may be lawfully rejected at reasonable force, okay? My body won't recording, okay? And so this is your last
Okay, I can't pronounce my words, and I sort of keep shut my mouth. I can't really pronounce my words or anything. Okay.
warning, okay?
You've done 5, have you?
I'm getting to there. This is your last warning. This is the 4th warning, okay? This is your last warning. If you don't leave the property,
Oh, Wayne Cousins? No, I think he was routinely raped a woman and killed a
you'll be
woman, didn't he?
lawfully ejected at reasonable force by myself and this officer. Are you willing to comply with that?
Immediate harm to people or property.
Are you willing to comply with that?
I can't wait. I can't wait for you to justify
Right, okay.
after the fact.
Carried on, so
No, I'm going to leave. I will leave.
Can you leave me?
And the reason I didn't want to be arrested and manhandled is because I don't see that that lends any weight to the severity of his threat.
Then please.
Well, I've got all my stuff to pack
That's
up.
fine. If you leave the property, the venue staff can get your belongings.
Absolutely. What?
Trustworthy.
Honestly. So you're asking a woman to leave an event? Now you're a fucking prick. Right, let's go. No, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to grab my bag. I'm going to get my bag.
In terms of your
It's
property,
all right. Don't talk to me anymore. 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 I asked some women about single-sex spaces, and now I'm being removed. I hope you seriously regret this, you silly cow. I don't care. I don't care.
If you're not happy, you're free to make a complaint.
I'm going to make a complaint.
That's fine. I've gave my phone number. Okay, please not shouting here too.
I can shout. I can shout if I want to. No woman has a penis. Woman is an adult human female.
Harry grabs me. No reason. I'm walking forward. Let's just watch. I'm walking forward.
Okay, please not shouting here too.
I can shout. I can shout if I want to. No woman has a penis. Woman is an adult human female. You don't need to. I'm already leaving. You have no reason to put your fucking hands on me.
Thank you very much. I've quoted my collar number. You're more than welcome to do a complaint.
So we've been asked to leave because I asked about single-sex spaces, and I'm not coming back into the building. Go fuck yourself. There. So that's what happened. So we got kicked out.
There. So that's what happened. We got kicked out. What can I say? What can I say? What an absolute joke. I wonder if there's any more wonderful things that we could just show you. Some of my favorites before I go. Oh yeah, let's do the PCC. So this is the Police and Crimes Commissioner. This is quite funny. Let me make sure you can see her. I might swap us. Hang on. You've probably seen these anyway, but this is funny.
And the police didn't look after the women at all. In fact, we got surrounded by violent men. I just wonder if you've addressed what's happening with trans activism and women who want to speak.
This is our head of comms. I'm going to go to the head of comms.
And what's your position? You're a deputy police commissioner, but you can't answer the question. Brilliant. So we're
I was having a particularly bad hair day, I'll just have you know.
called Let Women Speak, and we came and had an event to speak about women's rights in Nottingham last year. And what the police did is massively failed us and allowed us to get kettled by trans activists. And obviously, this is a women's event, and some women are not very happy about me talking about single sex spaces. What are the police doing to ensure that women, when women want single sex, that the police are actually offering
I
that?
think you'd have to ask the police that question. It's not something I can answer on their behalf. I'm not a member of the police, so
So
Yeah.
she's a police and crimes assistant commissioner, and she's just handed it over to you.
yeah.
Is that because she's incapable of answering a simple question?
No, it's not. No, it's because this is a celebration event, and everyone's just here to.
You can't celebrate women if you can't protect them, though, when they try and speak in public, can you? That would be quite hypocritical to say we celebrate women, but by the way, when you're out and you want to speak in public, we won't protect you.
As I say, I can't speak on behalf of the police. You're asking operational policing questions, and that's not something I can answer.
So what about the PCC, the office of the PCC then? Do they recognise women as adult human females?
It's not something I can answer.
Are you a communications person? Is that your job?
Yes.
Are you incapable of stringing a sentence together?
No.
Amazing. Amazing. So what's her name? The Assistant Police and Crimes Commissioner up there. I'm going to get her. She refused to answer a question.
Honestly, we had huddle. This was our few hours there. There were constantly like little groups of people, just absolutely, just aghast that anyone had the temerity to go and ask them some difficult questions. It was really like honestly they couldn't believe it. And I just want to also say this: if I hear another fucking speech from a woman that says, "And I went." And I knew I was going to go somewhere and no one would look like me because I'm the first African, perfectly British English accent woman. I'm an African woman and I'm really proud as an African woman. And then, oh, this person is the first person of color. This is the first Asian. Like, fuck off. It's just too, can't you just be a fucking woman? Can't we just stop this shit? I'm the first African. Well, you sound pretty fucking middle class to me. And if you're, why aren't you a British woman? Why are you an African woman? That's another bugbear, but anyway.
And then she passed me over to a communications person who seemed to not be able to speak very good English. So this is the state of everything. So they'll have this celebration. In fact, what I might do is I might just get up on the stage and shout that in a minute. So they're having a celebration for women that they won't protect. They won't say that they will protect or keep women's single sex spaces as single sex. They won't protect a woman's right to speak in public. And this is how they behave. What is the fucking point of any of this? Oh, we really want to protect women. What are women? I can't answer. I can't answer what a woman is, but we will protect you. Amazing. Amazing. Last year.
And so, that's me. That's me this afternoon. Absolutely mad. Absolutely mad. Look, if you're in the Midlands area and you want to join a really active, pretty phenomenal group of women, do get in touch with us on Locals because they are so brilliant. They are so brilliant. And without their genius, we wouldn't have managed to have all these viral clips, and it's gone viral all over TikTok. We've got like millions of views because I think people just can't believe what's happening. And I think, to my own credit, the good thing about these interactions is we're not shouting. You don't have to shout and scream to really get the most perfect idiocy from people. So anyway, get yourself a turf hoodie. It's rather spectacular. Look, if you can say the things that need to be said when they need to be said, then I promise we will win. if you can keep your cool when all around you are fucking insane, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Well, it's because I never lose.
آزادی از موهایم آغاز می شود آزادی از موهایم آغاز می شود They said it's for heaven They said it's for love Pulled the fabric tighter Called that grace from above My scalp learned their scripture Every strand in a cage You learn to walk smaller Just to live through the day If you use your faith to make women suffer hell Maybe you invented God to force us under your spell This is my crown, not your chain, not your rumor, not your shame You built a prison, called it prayer But I was born for freedom in my head For freedom in my head Yeah. Your rules in a whisper